Welcome back to the Camp Chronicles podcast. In today's episode, we're going to go into a little bit of camp traditions. One big tradition being colour war. Now, a lot of camps may call colour war different things, but I think as a whole from research, I've seen that majority is colour war. What do you guys call your colour war?
I feel like in my head, colour war is like just a general umbrella term for like all of them, but we have two because our camp split into two sessions. So we have college week at the end of the 4-week session, and then we'll have Olympics at the end of the 3-week session. So like at the end of the full 7 weeks. So they're not specifically called colour war, but I would class them as colour wars.
Yeah, we have an Olympics during the summer, but it's kind of halfway through and it's like a mini colour war. And the CITs run it and it's split into 4 teams. And it's just to kind of get the hype and excitement and bring camp together.
Yeah, because your camp's just one full 7-week session, isn't it? The kids are there the whole time.
Yeah, the same kids are there for 7 weeks. No one leaves throughout. So our colour war is usually after trip week. So it's at the end of, I think, the 5th or the 6th week. And it usually runs for around 4 days. And we have this whole thing with our colour war where you know what's going to happen, but you don't know when. You just feel like the suspense in the air. Is that the same for your camp?
Yeah, builds up. Because I mean you can usually kind of suss it out if you look at like the schedules for like the evening activities, because there's like certain evening activities that have to be in place, or you can work out like banquets on this night, so that means like sing needs to be on this night, so Olympics needs to have started by this point. So everybody always tries to work it out, but they obviously do a lot of fake outs before the breakout. Now, if you're a first time counsellor, the whole concept of colour war is going to seem like so bizarre, isn't it? Because I remember people talking about it when I was at camp, and I feel like literally nothing can prepare you for it, for like what it actually is. As I've said many times before, it's basically just like an extreme sports day with extra things thrown in. But should we talk fake outs and breakouts first and what they kind of are?
Let's do it.
Okay, so fake outs are basically like fake versions of breakout, obviously. Breakout is so an event will happen, and then Olympics, which is our final colour war, so your colour war, we'll just call it the final event. Our Olympics gets broken out, and then that's when it like officially starts. It'll usually be in some sort of like big event. Before that though, there'll be fake outs where something big will happen and it'll be like a teaser, like, oh, it's coming, and then like Carl will come out with his briefcase and he's like, it's coming but it's not here yet, or whatever the hell it is he says. And like the fake outs are still pretty cool, to be fair. Like one of the fake outs this year, we had these like people come and they were dressed in these like big robot LED suit things, and they had like these like, not flamethrower, it was like a confetti shooter. I don't know why I was thinking flamethrower. They have like confetti shooters and they're shooting steam and doing all these crazy things. And our CITs also do a fake out. Now, sadly this year, our CIT official fake out did get rained off, and it was like so upsetting because they'd planned it for ages, and they'd basically had Emma and Taylor, who are together. It was a very elaborate fake out. They had Taylor proposed to Emma on stage. He had all of his like CIT boys on the stage with them, and they were singing Marry You by Bruno Mars. And then he called Emma up on stage. Emma goes up on stage, it obviously gets down on one knee, pops the question, will you marry me, blah blah blah. And then like it was posted on the Instagram, like it was posted everywhere to like obviously make it more believable. Emma was like wearing the ring everywhere, and it was meant to be like as real as possible. And then they were planning to do like a wedding at camp for them. They were going to be getting married on the dock. Taylor was going to be standing, like waiting for Emma to come, and then the plot twist was going to be Tony, this big ginger guy, was going to come on a jet ski from one side of the lake, like hidden around the corner, jet ski over to the end of like the walkway on the lake where they were supposed to be getting married, wearing a wedding dress, and it would be like, surprise, he was meant to be getting married to Tony all along. and we had this whole elaborate plan, and it got rained off, basically. It was really sad.
This colour war was really bad for weather, wasn't it?
It was bad. But then, like, I feel like that's the case with most ones, isn't it? It's rainy,
Yeah.
really rainy, or really, really, really hot.
So we also do fake outs, but it's our super girls that do the fake outs.
Mhm.
So super girls are around 13, 14, I think.
So they're like, is it supers, teens, CITs for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like I think they're like our ninth grade
Mhm.
equivalents, I think.
So they usually do a fake out, but how it
Mhm.
works with our camp is we have this whole tradition where colour war can't break out until the hawk is killed. Now,
Mhm.
no animals are harmed in this process. It's literally just the assistant director dressed in a hawk outfit, and it's a whole deal where the Wonderettes will come out. So it's a bunch of ex-camper girls dressed in a Wonderette outfit, and the saying is "Up with the Wonderettes, down with the hawk," because you want the hawk to die because the hawk's bad.
Yeah.
And then what'll happen is there's this whole fake out usually with the hawk dying. So,
Mhm.
like, you're pretending to catch the hawk, but the hawk hasn't actually died yet. And then at a big event, what'll happen is the hawk will get killed. And then you kind of sat, like, waiting around because you know it's going to break out. And you just don't know when exactly it's going to happen. The Supergirls will then do their fake out, and everyone will think, like, that it's Colour War breakout.
Yeah.
It's not. And then that leads you on to the actual breakout in itself.
Yeah.
So I can't actually remember what the Supergirls breakout was last year. Um,
Really?
I know that's really bad of me, isn't it?
What was your like
Um,
official breakout?
So our official breakout was Franco's 50th summer at camp,
Mhm.
and he
Wow.
loves his baseball. So all of the head staff, we went down to the wiffle ball court. All of the head staff
Mhm.
were in these like amazing yellow baseball suits, like with Tyler
Mhm.
Hill written on the front of them. They all had like their own walkout music. At this point, we knew it was going to be breakout,
Yeah.
but we didn't know exactly what was happening. It got to a point where we needed two final members for the team, for the All Stars Tyler Hill team. And I
Mhm.
think they were going to play the CIT boys. And what happens is they call out these two people. And now on TikTok, there's this baseball group called the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah,
I can't
Savannah
say it properly.
bananas.
Savannah Bananas, whatever you call them. And basically, they do this whole thing where they sing, and it's an actual baseball team. All of the girls were screaming because like these two gorgeous baseball players were here. The mood was so fitting because it was raining, and they
Uh-huh.
got up and they sang, and then they were like, "We've got one more thing to say. I think it's time for colour war." And then the papers flew up in the sky. Everyone was screaming, crying, running for the papers. But actually, when you think about it, it was quite dangerous because it was literally like a stampede,
Oh
and because
God.
all the kids wanted to meet the two guys,
Yeah.
it was hard to find them, and it was pouring down with rain. And
Yeah.
honestly, like, turns out my co-counselors had time to go and get pictures with these two guys, which I saw later on, whereas I was so stressed about the kids and finding
Yeah.
them and getting them back to the bunk because obviously it was late, it was pouring down with rain, so I didn't even get to meet the two guys. I was gutted. But
I'd be
yeah,
livid.
so that was kind of how our colour war broke out this year. And then previous years, we've had famous singers break it out. We've had famous athletes.
Mhm.
The previous year, we had a drone show, which was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I
So yeah, we have very elaborate colour war breakouts. Like very famous people have broken out before.
don't think we've had anyone famous, but like in my head, like I'm plotting like if there was a breakout or even a fake out this year, I would love to do a skydive. And I don't know whether I'm like a B-knock enough to be the person that gets chosen. Do you know what a B-knock is actually?
No,
Oh, big name on camp.
right?
If you're a B-knock, you're a big name on camp, like everyone knows who you are. I don't think I'm enough of a B-knock to be the person that gets to do the skydive. But if anybody from Echo out there is listening and you fancy letting me do a skydive as a fake out or a breakout, then I will be happy to do it. We've had like people go up in helicopters before and throw white and blue ducks from the sky and things like, yeah, literally like so weird. I've seen some camps, have you seen it on TikTok? They have cheeseburgers thrown from the sky.
That's so funny you've just said that because we had that one year.
Did
So what
you?
happened was we all went onto the golf course and they wanted
Mhm.
to take a picture of the whole of the camp. So they had us sat down and like they were given this whole speech about it. Then all of a sudden this plane flies over and just drops loads of McDonald's cheeseburgers all over the golf course. It was crazy. I think
That's
most of them
so
went in the lake, to be fair.
It's so random. Yeah, I'd be gutted if it went in the lake. Oh God, I'd be diving in after them. But yeah, like obviously the beginning of like Colour War Olympics is crazy enough. And then you've got to get into like the captains, lieutenants, and we have camper captains being announced. And like for anyone again that doesn't know what they are, basically staff gets selected. I don't know if it's the same at Tyler Hill. I'm assuming it's probably similar. Staff get selected to be the ones that are like leading the group. So for our big Olympics, it's split into blue and white team, and they'll each have like a country. I actually can't remember what the countries were this year, which is pretty bad. But yeah, whatever the countries are, they'll have like one boy and one girl staff member being the captains, and then they'll have three or four, I think, male and three or four female lieutenants per team. And then they'll also have camper captains, which again will usually be like three or four girls and three or four boys for each team, which are chosen from the CITs. And basically, like, it is a big, big honour at camp to be selected as one of those, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge, especially for the ex-campers. So we
Mm-hmm.
have at the top of ours, we have generals, then we have colonels, then we
Mm-hmm.
have lieutenants, and then we have your CIT captains.
Yeah.
But you see, so it's like two generals on each
Mm-hmm.
team, a boy and a girl, two
Mm-hmm.
colonels, boy and a girl on each team, and then I think it's three lieutenants.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not 100% sure how many CITs it is, but it's massive, and you see which campus are working for a position in Colour War. It's what they dream of. Like,
Yeah.
their literally dream since freshman is to be a general in Colour War one day. So it is a really big deal, and it's really nice when they also include, like, the international staff members as well. So this year it was, not this year, sorry, last year it was so crazy because Mark had never had a position in Colour War and was given general. He was from South Africa, and it was just like everyone's minds were just so blown, and he so deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, but everyone just couldn't believe it because it was just such a shock that he'd gotten it over like ex-campers who were kind of in the running for it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how the positions work at Tyler Hill.
See, ours aren't really based on like, oh, it'll usually go to Americans. But yeah, a lot of the time it's international staff members. So it's not like it's not a shock. It doesn't necessarily go to Americans, it just goes to whoever is the most deserving for it. In fact, this year just gone, one of the teams, but yeah, I think it was 3 out of 4 of the captains were international, yeah.
Everyone gets really dressed up as well for Colour War, don't they? Like,
Mm-hmm.
people go all out. And I'm talking like face paint, glitter, gems, tutus, like all of that jazz. Everyone gets really dressed up. Don't worry, because I can guarantee that your campers will come with both colours. And the good thing is your campers do share with you 9 times out of 10. So I'd always be able to like go to one of the girls that were on white team and be like, do you have any blue stuff that I could borrow? And you'll catch me like prancing around in a blue tutu that like just about fits over one leg. Is it the same at your camp?
Yeah, literally the same. I mean, Olympics is obviously split blue and white. So I feel like your final colour war will be blue and white. So most people tend to have like a lot of blue and white things they can rotate between. But for college week, which is our like middle session colour war, it depends on what the colleges are as to what the colour will be. So this year it was like yellow, red, green, and blue, maybe, I think were like the 4 colours. And I remember first summer that I went, I got put on yellow team, which was army. And I literally had one yellow top and that was it. There's like one yellow top from Primark. And I was like begging all my kids. I was like, please tell me you've got something that I can wear.
That's it, and you'll be very surprised at how much stuff they actually bring. But you'll see that when you unpack the trunks and you see their spirit bins. And when it comes to visiting day, you'll find that parents will come with even more stuff for Colour War too. So don't worry about packing loads of stuff. Only pack stuff, I say, if it can be versatile, so you would be
Yeah.
happy to wear it on like other times. Because if you do what I did on my first summer and packed loads of spirit wear, and then it got to travelling and I had no clothes but spirit wear, you can get kind of screwed. So just know that your kids will more than likely share stuff with you.
Yeah. Even just bringing like different coloured shorts or like different coloured t-shirt, like you were saying, that are like versatile. Or like go to Primark, what I did my first summer, I went to Primark and I bought, you know, they're like £1 tank tops. They're probably like £3 now because prices are going up. And I bought one in like a black, a white, a blue, a red, a green, and a yellow. And that like sorted me for any thing that I needed basically. So yeah, that's the easiest way I found to do it. But yeah, once Olympics or Colour War, College Week, whatever you have going on, once it actually starts, it is like full steam ahead the whole way through. So our College Week is usually 3 days, I think it is. And then Olympics is generally 4 days. Everybody wants a 5-day Olympics, but I've not experienced a 5-day Olympics yet. And it is just like full steam ahead, isn't it? You don't really get a chance to catch a breath and get a break.
You don't even realise how tiring it is as well. Do you know what it is? Especially for the specialist counsellors who then are back with the kids, and this is kind of their first experience spending like all of this time with the kids. They're just, if not more knackered, because they don't realise. But even though like this is what you do every day for 7 weeks, there's just something about Colour War that is so exhausting. It is fun, but this is something that I'm always very real about. That it is an exhausting 4 days. You feel like you're non-stop on the go, and you know, you have different kind of roles. If you're involved in Colour War itself, like if you're a general or anything, if you've got a position, then like you're talking about being awake from 6 o'clock in the morning until like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like they never stop. And you'll always find that at the end of Colour War in that last week, the people that were in Colour War itself have no voice
Yeah.
because it's so long. But then also, like, because the kids are so excited, I know the older kids get very involved with it as well, which I'm sure you'll go into detail about. They're up for a long time. I know, like, after a day of Colour War, the girls can be either, it goes two ways, they're exhausted and want to go straight to sleep, or they're running on so much adrenaline, you can't get them to sleep. So it is very exhausting.
It is. And if you think about it, for the most part, like the older ones at my camp especially are generally going to be doing like sports all day long. Like most of their like things that they're trying to win are sports. So like one, I think honestly it was last year, it was something like they had kickball followed by basketball followed by swim meet or like something ridiculous like that, and it's just sport after sport after sport. Whereas with the younger ones, they'll do like rock paper scissors, that's like one of their events, or like Gaga, which the older girls do the older kids do as well. But like the little kids, it's usually like name that tune or something along those lines instead. And I mentioned this to Summer before we started filming this, but sometimes the games will end in a tie, or the kids will be like so tired that they just genuinely do not want to take part. And if there's a general consensus that everybody is just like giving up and they don't want to do it, like as a judge, I'm not going to force them to do it, but quite often we do move-offs. So like Gaga's finished, it's a tie, and there's not enough time to have another round. They'll do a move-off. Now, some of you didn't know what a move-off was, did you?
No.
So I just explained it before, but basically you'll have like one person from each team. So it'll be like blue team, white team. You'll have one person come forwards and you get on your hands and knees on the floor and you start with your head down and then you lift your heads up and you basically just got to take turns like consecutively mooing at each other and trying to make the other person laugh, but you're trying not to laugh and you're trying to keep as straight of a face as possible. And like some of the way that they like moo at each other is just like obscene, like obviously trying to do funny voices and stuff like that. Like they are genuinely hilarious to watch. Like some of the kids can keep such a straight face, everyone around them's like laughing at them and they're just still like moo. I just don't understand it. But yeah, moo offs are really a big thing at Echo. Maybe not so much at Tyler Hill.
No, I've never heard of moo offs before until you mentioned it earlier on. And honestly, I would probably be the worst person to do a moo off as well because I would just laugh instantly. But it's funny how you said that about the younger children because what I find at my camp is that we still do all of the sports. Like the kids still
Mhm.
have a very like strict schedule where it's like back to back sport. But you do find in like the major camp events that they will do a little bit less than what the older
Mhm.
ones would do. So,
Yeah.
for example, I'm pretty sure you guys do this as well, but like a relay race between like the teams. What
Mhm.
we do at Tyler Hill is on a morning the girls will do it, and on the afternoon the boys will do it. But
Mhm.
obviously it's blue and white morning, blue and white in the afternoon as well.
Mhm.
But like what'll happen is, for example, the younger ones, like the younger boys, will go around and do like. Have you ever heard of a Diablo stick?
Is that
It's
the
the two
thing where it's
sticks
got
and they're
the
like, yeah.
dial? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, like for example, on a morning, the freshman boys would do like the Diablo situation,
Mhm.
but then the further numbers you get down, you'll have, for example, sunken canoe. Now, you're not going to
Mm.
have a bunch of 7-year-old children in the lake doing sunken canoe. Oh, yeah, because,
Yeah.
well, it's very hard to do.
Uh,
So that's kind of how it works at our camp, where the younger ones will still do sports um for the whole thing, but
mhm.
the older ones will do more like vigorous activities, should we say.
Yeah.
What other
Mhm.
like big events do you do during your
When you've
sport?
said there about the sunken boat thing, that's just there's like Lake Challenge is a big one. So there'll be like a sandcastle. This is like for upper and lower. Well, upper definitely. I actually have never been to a lower camp Lake Challenge, so I'm not 100% sure how it's altered. But at upper camp, like there'll be blind boating, which like basically you have, is it 3 people? So you have one at the front and one at the back of the boat, like a canoe thing, and one person in the middle. The one in the middle can see, the one at the front and the one at the back are blindfolded, and they've basically got to like canoe all the way across the lake around a lifeguard and then get all the way back, and then there's 4 rounds of that for each team. Some people's canoes do end up capsizing. It's really entertaining to watch, but it is a whole lot of stress. Then they also have like races along, like, do you have like one of those inflatable obstacle courses?
Yeah,
You've got to like race across them, and whoever obviously gets the fastest time for their team wins. And then they have what's that thing called where you've got to, where you've got to like run, swim, and cycle. What's that called?
triathlon.
Triathlon, that's it. So it's the triathlon. So it starts off with like a lap of run all the way around the lake, which I did one year, and oh my god, it is actually the worst. Like I literally thought I was going to be sick afterwards. And then somebody's got to cycle all the way around, and then once they get back from cycling, they tag in the last teammate who's got to run, dive into the lake, swim over across the dock and up and around. Do you do any like more water type things actually?
Yeah, we have I'm pretty sure we have people swim all the way out in the lake.
Hmm.
They either swim or canoe. But we also do another water activity which is called bucket brigade.
Yeah.
Do you guys do that as well?
Yeah, that's a big one, bucket brigade from us.
Yeah, and you've got like you'll usually have the generals of both teams stood in the water and
Mhm.
they'll pass the water up. How does your bucket brigade work? Is it the same as ours?
I think similar. So the CITs are like very, very heavily involved in Olympics, which is like our final colour war. It's basically like they spend their whole life waiting for this moment. It's like a girls only event though. Is it girls only for yous as well?
Um, that's a great question.
Do the boys do it ever?
Do the boys do it? No, I'm sure they do. I think they do. Do they? I'm not sure.
Yeah, because for us, like Bucket Brigade is a girls only thing, and like in previous years, they didn't even let like the boy like captains, lieutenants, and stuff like that come up because they would basically just like take the mick. Lo and behold, not last year, but the year before, they let the boys come up to be there, and they were like making jokes and be like, "Hi, shoelaces untied," like trying to distract the other team. And the girls were not very happy about it. We were like, "Nah, that is it. That is not happening again. The boys are not coming back." But yeah, they'll basically have each team, like blue and white, lined up on the road that leads up the hill from the lake up to like girls' side, and there'll be like one CIT in the lake for each team, and they'll be filling all the buckets up. And they've basically lined up like an upper camp kid, a lower camp, an upper camp, a lower camp. The lower camp kids don't actually like pass the bucket, but they have to touch it as it comes up. And then when it gets to the top, obviously they'll be like full of water. There's 2 runners for each team, and there's like a line, like a boundary that only these 2 runners are allowed in. So they like get like the full cups and stuff. They run, they pour it in at the bucket, and then the aim is obviously to fill the bucket up to the top with the with the ping pong ball in it, and that's meant to like overflow. Does yours run the same?
So ours is they'll pass the little bucket all the way down, and then the person, which will be like usually the general, will
Mm-hmm.
pour the water, that will get their water, and then the person at the front of the line will have to run all the way up to the top and
Oh,
pour it in, and then that's how it works. And then the bucket goes all the way down again, then it gets passed
yeah.
up. That's how ours works, and then you've
Oh,
got to fill the bucket to the top.
that's interesting. Like how it's the same thing, but like done so differently, isn't it? And like I quite enjoy Bucket Brigade, but like all the boys again when they came, they were like, "This is so boring. This is so boring." But it's like you've just got to like get into the flow of it, really. And like all the kids are there and they're shouting like, "It's coming up! It's coming up!" When there's a new like bucket coming up, and then they all get passed down and they're like, "Coming down! It's coming down!" Like shouting at each other. So that is quite a big one. And I think another sort of big one that we both do again, but in different ways, is sing, isn't it?
Oh yes, colour war sing night.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's always like the last event of Olympics for us on the final night. And then after sing, all of the like plaques get announced and you find out who the winner of Olympics is. It is a very intense and sad night. I cry every time it's sing. Every time.
It's because you know camp's done with now. You know
Hmm.
that the next day you're gonna wake up and it's a case of, you're starting to get the ball moving with getting things packed up,
Yeah.
the kids are exhausted, they're pretty much ready to go home. It's just like it hits you that you're coming up to your final week of camp.
Hmm. And then I think as well, like the Almas and stuff, I don't know about you, but our Almas, they always try and make them like as sad as possible, to like sad songs. So we have for sing, there's chants, marches, and Almas, and the Almas are always sung last. I can't remember if it's the chants or the marches. I think it's both of them really, where they've always got like inside jokes in them with like funny things that have happened at camp, or they'll be like taking the mick out of like certain counsellors, or this person's always doing this. There's a lot about Jason and Ethan, who were operations this year, because they were always together flying around on their golf cart. There's a lot about like them two being like in love and like silly things like that. And then the Almas are obviously meant to be like the really sad ones.
Yeah, with us on Colour War Sing Night, we have this whole scenery during Colour War where on an
Hmm.
evening that's where you'll find a lot of the CITs are
Hmm.
creating the scenery for both teams.
Hmm.
And then we set up where the hockey dome is, where we do our Colour War Sing Night. One side will be for blue, one side will be for white, and they'll have
Hmm.
this whole scenery section. So that's something that has to be done for Sing Night. And then
Hmm.
also the plaques for blue team and white team has to be done. And then we also do an Alma and a march. We
Hmm.
used to do a skit as well, but it got to a point where it went a little bit too far. So we had to put a ban on skit, but every year
Hmm.
the boys without fail, like the older boys, chant to try and get it back. But
Yeah.
we had it in 2022, but we haven't had it back yet. And then we also do lower dance and upper dance performances. And then at the end, once we've sang everything, the generals will get up and they'll give this whole speech. And it's
Hmm.
usually like 4 pages worth of just heartfelt things. And usually
Wow.
when it's the ex-campers, they go through like from the start of their camp journey when they were freshmen, they go
Hmm.
through all the lessons they've learned, the counsellors they remember, the friends they've made, and it's like there's not a dry eye in the room.
Yeah.
But Mark last year obviously wasn't expecting to be general. It was so out of the blue, and he wasn't a counsellor that's been there from literally since he was 7 or 8.
Mm.
And I remember he was reading from his book, and then he just kind of closed the book and then just started speaking from his heart, and like
Oh.
he really spoke. It makes me emotional thinking about it actually. He really spoke for like us international staff members, and really explained like what Tyler Hill has done for us as well. So everybody's usually sobbing from there, and then once that's done, the Alyssa will get up. Alyssa always runs it. She's the freshman division leader. That woman is just, I can't even explain it. She's like got so many superpowers. She does the colour war as well as running her 90 little freshman kids. And she'll make all the announcements. She'll go through like the envelopes that people have won with points on. She'll go through all of the scores from all the different activities, and then at the end she'll call out who's won, and everybody, well, the people that are on that team are up and they're like screaming and jumping, and like the generals and colonels and lieutenants are crying. Like,
Yeah.
it's so emotional. It's like a scene off a movie. You can't believe it's happening. Like, and then after a little bit, you kind of get your kids back to the bunk. And I remember the first summer, I was sat in Sienna's bed while the girls were all like getting ready to go to sleep, and I was just sat in that bed waiting for everyone. And I was just sat there and I was just sobbing, like uncontrollably sobbing. And I think it was from like the exhaustion of like the 4 days, the fact like I'd just witnessed my first colour war, the fact that, you know, to be honest, the team lost that I was on the first year.
Oh.
But just the realisation of everything, and like you are exhausted and you can't wait for colour war to end when it comes to it. But it is really like the final nail in the coffin that the journey's up.
It is. And like I think that's why everyone's crying, isn't it, at the end? Like, because you know that it's like the last proper kind of night. But with like winning, how does the winning like decide? Is it based on points for you guys?
Yeah, so it's based on points, and you can get points from envelopes. You can get big envelopes, small envelopes. You pick a ball out the hat, and then that'll like tell you which type of envelope you've won. It's from all of the activities during the day, like divisional activities, all of the big camp activities, and then from Colour Warsing Night, you win points for, like, someone might win the Olmer, but the other team might win the March. Blue team might win lower camp dance, but white team might win upper camp dance. So that's kind of, it's all based on the points that in the envelopes that are won.
Yeah, because ours is done on plaques, so it'll be the only like point system really is like people can be awarded campmanship points. So if you see like teams that are like cheering a team on, like cheering their teammates on, or like cleaning up, things like that, you can award, as a judge, you can award teams campmanship points based on those things. That's the only thing that's like points worthy. So like the campmanship points plaque will get awarded to whichever team's got the most, and then every single activity has a plaque. So there's like a frog hunt plaque, where the kids don't really have to go around and just try and find as many frogs as they can. It does what it says on the tin. There's like your track meet plaques, there's like a basketball plaque, and there's always like they'll always pick somebody to have their name on the plaque. So for example, like the pick soccer, which is like the CITs, the girls all do a soccer tournament. It'll be team versus team, and then there'll be like whoever's on the winning team, there'll be like one person picked from that winning team to have their name put on the plaque because they won it. And then whichever team ends up with the most plaques wins Olympics. But they always do it really sneakily, so like rather than like reading it like the plaques out like, oh, blue team won this one, white team won this one, blue team won this one, they'll do like 3 from like the blue team, and then like 4 from the white team, and then like 1 in a row from the blue team, so that you've got to like count it up as you go and to work out like how many plaques are in it as to like who's gonna win and stuff. So it's quite sneaky really.
Yeah, it is. And to be fair, hats off to whoever works out all of the points. because I would not want to be in charge of that. Just like I don't think I would ever want to be a judge on camp, because that job, I feel sorry for anybody who is a judge. Like when the kids get into something, they get into it, and if like a ref calls something because they've seen something and the kids don't agree, oh my days, like you've got experience of being a judge, haven't you?
Yeah, it is rough. And honestly, I think it's more rough on like the sports that I don't really know. So for example, like being a judge for like baseball and kickball, like that's just something I genuinely do not know the rules of. Like they need to have like a judge's rule book. Like these are the rules we're playing by. So like international staff members like myself can read through. And like obviously I used to play and coach basketball. So whenever it comes to basketball, the like level is not super high, but you've always got those like one or two kids that is their sport and they play that sport, so they're wanting every single thing to be called. But you can't call every single travel or every single foul, because otherwise they would just never play, because you've got girls that like literally don't play at all trying to play. So it does get really hard. And like you were saying, the kids can get feisty, ferocious, have a bit of an attitude with you if you don't call things, or you do call certain things that they don't agree with. And as a staff member, if you are not a judge, but just like obviously staff members get put on to be a part of the team, like you should be encouraging your kids and not shouting at the judges alongside them. So please take that into consideration. If you want, if it's a sport that you know well and you can carefully say like, oh, by the way, like these are a few rules, like bear this in mind, I will take that into account. But if you start shouting at me with your kids, I will not be happy.
No, that's so fair. And just to kind of explain quickly for the people that are watching, if it's the same at your camp, what it is to be a judge, you've either been in colour war previously and been a general, or you are out of bunk, so you don't have in bunk responsibilities. So, for example, at my camp, if you were a division head and you lived in a staff bunk, or if you were a division leader and you lived in Wayne Hall, basically anybody that doesn't have in bunk responsibilities will be a judge.
Similar, but not quite. For us, as judges, we are also in bunk sometimes. So that
Wow.
means that if you make a wrong decision, then the kids will be still at you. So, yeah, that's not always super fun. I mean, a lot of the time it's leads, so like lead counselors that are like the head of their division, but like lead counselors for us are still in bunk. You'll like be a judge for your grade usually, plus one other person, so like another member of leadership will come and help judge with you. But yeah, that's another place where you've got to know, we spoke about this before we started recording, but knowing where to draw the line with the colour war Olympics fight and talk between the kids and staff, to be honest. Someone was telling me you've got a crazy rule about lunch and dinner and breakfast, don't you?
Yeah, so basically with colour war, just quickly, it can't be spoken about in bunk. That we kind of have set rules about it for that exact reason as what Ellen's just said. Obviously, bringing it into the bunk can cause a lot of arguments, but we also have a rule where silent meals are put in place during colour war. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or tea if you're a northerner,
Yeah.
um, you have to sit within your teams. So blue team are on one side, so the girls and boys are mixed, and then white team, the girls and boys are mixed on the other side. But you have to sit in the meal and it has to be in complete silence. And if it's not silent, you get points deducted from you. So until everybody's finished eating, and then the blue team have said their speech and the white team have said their speech, then everybody can talk and like chant and cheer and get excited. But majority of the meal has to be in silence, and you have to walk into the dining hall in silence as well. Now, after 5 weeks of being in the dining hall, it's blissful, and you can eat your meal in peace, and you don't have people chanting and cheering and going crazy. But it's so weird to go from so much noise to silence to then once colour war's over, so much noise again in the dining hall.
I can't even imagine like the kids being totally silent. In my head, that would cause more drama because you're always going to have like one kid that can't stay silent in the bunk. Realistically, there's always going to be like one or two kids that just can't keep their mouth shut or is like looking around at everyone trying to make everyone laugh. And I feel like the rest of the team would then be getting annoyed and frustrated at that one kid. So like in my head, that wouldn't work. But clearly it must work for them to still have it in place as a rule.
The kids take it very seriously, and you'll also have like the generals and stuff will walk around and tell everyone to like be quiet, and it's kind of the counsellor's job to take control of the situation. But at my camp we have a buggy situation, so like we go up and get more food for like the younger kids. So it's quite difficult because you've got to kind of like mouth what you want or what you need, and you've got to try and understand the kids' needs beforehand, so that you can kind of communicate in some form while being silent. But you have obviously all of the judges in there as well while they're having their meals, so you have to be like so quiet.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of things with like colour war does just come down to tradition, doesn't it? And like every camp will have their own traditions and like their own specific things that they do. Another thing that I forgot to mention as well, I don't know again if it's same, similar, different for you guys, but it's not all just about sports. So like there will be like different things. So if you're hearing this and thinking, oh my God, I like hate sports, it's like my worst nightmare, like you'll just get absorbed into it anyways and you'll just have a great time, and B, it's like not all sport related. So like I was saying, sometimes there'll be a name that tune that's like a plaque, or it's done in college week. College week for us, we have skits as well, so the 4 teams have to make a skit that's based around their college, so they have to do like loads of research into their college and things like that and then make a skit based around that. So it'll be kind of like theatrical, like there'll be people doing like performances and there'll be a lot of dancers involved, a bit of acting, but then also there's like arts and crafts that are like a big part of it. Do you do like flag painting or anything like that? Do you have flags that you do for Olympics or you colour war?
No, because they get created already beforehand with the t-shirts. So the guy, Paul, I think he's called, he creates and designs the shirts, and then that gets created into like a big poster that gets put up.
Yeah. So for us during college week, they have float building. So they've basically got to build like a float, like if you imagine like a parade float, like a big parade float with something to do with their camp and their camp, sorry, with their college. And like the people are in Olympic Hall and they are doing this for hours. And I'm talking like big wooden things like mesh crates. They've got to paint them all, assemble them all. They also have to paint flags. So each college will make like, it's like a massive, I don't know, it's huge flag for their college. And then a big part of Olympics is like a plaque flag painting as well. So like our Olympics are obviously in countries and you have to paint like a big picture to do with your country, and it's like very regulated, like you're only allowed in arts and crafts between these hours. Only like these 5 people are the only people that are allowed to work on it. It's not all just like sport, sport, sport all the time.
It sounds like we obviously do scenery, like I mentioned earlier on, for Colour War Sing Night. So it sounds a little bit similar to that we do at my camp.
Yeah, so we've been rambling about colour wars and Olympics and college week and everything like that for a little while, and this is literally only our experience. Like we're saying, every single camp, although it's like a similar thing, they'll do things differently. So do not take our word for Echo and Tyler Hill as gospel, because your camp might do something totally, totally different. But I would just thought it'd be like a fun insight so you can kind of prepare yourselves and like know a little bit like what to expect. There's obviously loads of other traditions and things like that, but we're planning on recording a traditions episode later down the line. Again, because there's a lot of things that camps do that are quite similar or totally different, like we've found out with Bucket Brigade. But yeah, I think we will round that off for today. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you in next week's episode.